Hey, by the way, I really liked how you were like, I'm sorry, how you were whenever you're like, welcome back to 2K Away theme song. I loved it. I
I'm
really
glad you
did.
liked it.
I did. I loved it. So are we gonna do the welcome back to the 2K Away and then theme song and then every time then?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Are you gonna start?
All right. Yeah. As soon as you stop saying let's do it.
This is gonna be the intro. Just let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to 2K Away. Theme song.
Let's do it.
Welcome back. I'm Paige and this is Peyton. We are sisters 2,000 miles away.
Hey.
And we talk about true crime and weird things.
Hell yeah.
This week, it's my week. And we just got done with Mr. Sutcliffe.
Thank God. Finally finished with him.
Yes. So
also, if you hear a little purr, that is my guinea pig. And I'm not going to apologize for it because it's precious.
Yes, he's pretty cute. So I don't know if you heard about this, Peyton, but I got a little, there he goes. What a cutie.
Okay, go ahead.
So last week, I think I saw something come across like Facebook and stuff. So I needed to make sure it was like a real thing. And it is. They found a body of a 50-some-year-old man in a house in Verdon, which is not far from us.
Oh, that Verdon.
That Verdon, yeah,
oh.
Illinois. And yeah, and they suspect foul play. They think he was actually killed. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to stay updated on that. And
so you keep an eye.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay updated on that. Keep and see what's going on with that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's close to home.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Peyton's pissed because I'm coming at you with yet another unsolved case.
And the next one that she's doing is also
unsolved.
I hate you.
I can't help myself. I'm telling you, just like with Mary Piercy, the wand chose the wizard, that's the same thing with this one, because it like immediately fascinated me, and there's some conspiracy at the end, which is what really got me into this. So, and I say unsolved in quotations because we're pretty sure everyone knows who did it, but they just never actually got caught and tried for it. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like the Squinix one where it's like unsolved, because there was actually somebody who was tried and acquitted for it.
Yeah.
There was nobody tried, acquitted, convicted, nothing for this case. So it's
and you said there is a conspiracy aspect to it.
There is a conspiracy at the end of this. Yes.
I do love me a good conspiracy.
I know. And like the Mary Piercy case, the conspiracy has to deal with something that you have called and want to cover, just like with Jack the Ripper and me. And oh my gosh.
Okay, shut up and hurry up, because you've told me about this like for a couple days now, and I'm like, what is it?
I know. So sorry, not sorry. But it's a weird case that I've never heard of. So you're in for a wild ride. So we're going to start off with Charles Rogers. Was born on December 30th, 1921, to parents Fred and Edwina Rogers in Houston, Texas.
I love the name Edwina.
Edwina, yeah.
I love
it. So there really isn't much about his early life, but he had enrolled in Texas A&M University when he was 21, but he ended up dropping out of there. But instead, he ended up going to the University of Houston and he earned a bachelor degree of science in nuclear physics. So he's a smart cookie. So after he graduated, he ended up joining the Navy during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pilot and served in the Office of Naval Intelligence. He was also fluent in 7 languages.
Oh.
Dude was seriously smart as hell.
Wow. Okay.
Very, very intelligent man. And so after the war was over and when he was discharged from the Navy, he got a job as a seismologist for Shell Oil Company. He was kind of obsessed with ham radio, the amateur radio stuff. I kind of looked into it. Like, I've heard of it, but I didn't really care enough to look further into it.
Like a radio DJ kind of thing, or
no, like
okay.
Breaker 19.
Oh, okay.
Not like a CB, but like that type of radio. Like they would use them, the military would use them and stuff.
Yeah.
But he kind of got obsessed and would like collect stuff for ham radio.
Okay.
Yeah. Made some pretty powerful friends actually too, not only just from the military and the Shell Oil Company, but through his ham radio obsession and collection, also through there. So he was employed with Shell for 9 years before he abruptly quit without notice or any reason as to why he was quitting, and he did that in 1957. He was 36 at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up moving back in with his parents, and he made the attic into his bedroom. And friends and neighbors of the couple didn't even know he moved back in, or even that he had had a son, because he was a recluse.
Oh.
Once he moved back in with his parents. So he barely left the house at all. And when he did, he would leave early in the morning, like dawn type of thing, before his parents would get up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wouldn't come back until after they had gone to bed, and it's like well after dark. So this,
the hell was he doing all day?
Nobody knows. Literally nobody knows. Because he didn't have a job, so to speak. That
yeah, so it's like, what the hell are you doing all day?
Exactly. And then probably over 12 hours because
right?
Dark to dark, you know? So the only type of communication that they had with each other, his parents and him, would be notes slipped under the door to his attic bedroom. So if he needed to say something, he would slip a note under the door. And if they needed to communicate with him, they would slip a note back under the door.
I don't like this.
Oh, it's strange.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of when Louise is in detention in Bob's Burgers. Tina and Jean slip the notes under.
I know, this is weird.
It gets weirder.
Cool.
So it was even said that his mom at some point in time, because I mean the rest of their family, because they didn't have any other children, but like some of her family that was around the area, they knew he was there, but nobody saw him. And it was said that his mom, I guess, had told somebody that she hadn't actually seen her son for 5 years, even though he lived with them for those 5 years.
That's weird.
Like,
I
hadn't even seen his face in 5 years. What?
Did they ever just open the door and be like, hey?
No. This
weird.
Is how they lived. I know.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, when I still lived at home, Daddy would just walk in. He wouldn't even knock. He'd be like, hey. He'd be like, do you mind? I'm not doing anything, but do you mind?
Yeah, no. There was a bathroom up there. So, I mean, he literally had no reason to come out of his bedroom.
Okay.
I don't know if they would just, like, sit food outside the door, or I don't know. I don't know.
Like, room service, knock, knock, knock.
Right. No idea. So nobody knew, again, what he did all day long when he would leave, but he wouldn't leave very often. It's just that when he did, he was gone all day. And he was so secretive about his movements that his neighbors, again, didn't even know he was there.
That's so weird.
I know. So he was unemployed. So what the hell did he do? Don't know.
Right?
I don't have an answer for that, even later on. No answer. So fast forward, 1965. This is 8 years after moving back in with his parents.
Ugh.
On June 23rd, the police get a call from Edwina's nephew for a welfare for his nephew for a welfare check on the now elderly couple. Fred was 81 and Edwina was 72 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So he had been trying to call his aunt and uncle for a couple days and hadn't heard from them, and he was getting worried. He went over to their house, but he couldn't get in because the doors were locked. Curtains were all drawn. He couldn't see anything or anything like that. So he's like, something's up. Well, and he was worried because they're old and don't know if they were in great health or, whatever, but old, it's hot outside, whole nine. So
it's okay to be concerned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he called the police and he ended up leading them to the house, and they had to kick open the door. So the house, I guess, was a little disorderly. So the cops kind of commented on that, and he's like, "Oh, no, this is normal. They're not good housekeepers."
Okay.
Fine.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, no, he's like, "No, this is normal." But what was not normal was there was food on the table, like they had put food down for supper and then just never touched it for like a couple days because it was starting to get nasty and stinky and moldy.
Oh.
So it had clearly been there again, couple days, but there was also just an awful smell that wasn't just coming from the food. If you can imagine where this is going.
Yeah.
So then the cops looked in the fridge.
Oh.
Yeah. They should. Well, unfortunately for those officers, they were the ones to find it first. Cuz I didn't mention before, but this is called the Icebox Murders. So the police saw what they initially thought was hog meat. It was all washed.
It's never
hog meat. Nope. Especially not like this because it was all washed and clean, but it was unwrapped and stacked in piles on every shelf because there was a lot of it. And there was like hardly any other food in the fridge. Then they happened to look down into the vegetable crisper and they found 2 human heads in the vegetable crisper. And they're like, "Oh, this isn't hog meat."
It's definitely
not hog meat. Because I even read something somewhere that said that one of the cops was thinking in his head, like, "Gosh, there's a ton of meat in here.
Right, like this is a lot of meat. Yeah.
Why are they going to waste all this hog meat? This is, good hog meat. Oh, wait, those are human heads.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal." So, yeah, because I even said, when they happened to see what was in the 2 vegetable crisper drawers, which they proved were very wrong about it being hog meat, there were they belonged to Fred and Edwina, in case you were wondering. Charles was nowhere to be found. He was not in the house at all.
Not in his
he obviously became
hidey hole.
He was in his nope. He became the number 1 suspect naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So upon examination of what was left of the bodies and the evidence in the house, what they were able to conclude was that Fred was beaten to death with a claw hammer. And then post-mortem, his genitals were removed and his eyes were gouged out. And then he was decapitated. So like I said,
damn,
this is not only a very heinous crime, but it's also horrendous.
My God.
That's some anger, if you ask me.
Why the genitals?
I don't know, but they were removed. Yep.
Okay.
And his eyes were gouged out. So it wasn't just beating with a claw hammer, cutting his penis off, and then they had to go out and gouge his eyes out. Now, that was all done post-mortem.
Post-mortem,
but still. Anyway. So then Edwina they found was she was badly beaten, but then she was shot in the head execution style and then decapitated.
In the front or the back?
Back of her head.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So, so she was shot and then decapitated. The medical examiner is quoted in the Amarillo Globe-Times as saying, "Whoever did this apparently took their time and knew what they were doing. The dismembering was a fairly neat job."
Wow.
I don't know that I would take that as a compliment, but that's what they said.
Well, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
No.
No. So they didn't really find much blood in the house. So they determined that they really tried to thoroughly clean all the blood up. So even though the house wasn't in like great order, they didn't find much blood. But what they did find was a little bit in the bathroom upstairs. So there had to have obviously been blood everywhere in there.
In the attic or just the upstairs?
The upstairs the attic bathroom. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they found a little bit of blood on the door to the attic as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to get a little bit that was in the bathtub or on the floor, one of the two. And then they also found a keyhole saw with blood on it in the attic bedroom. And a keyhole saw, didn't know what that was. It's basically just, I actually have a picture of the keyhole saw that they think was
like a bone saw, or is it like one of those old saws, like a tree saw?
Well, no. So it's like a regular.
So it's dismissive. Like a regular. No.
Yes.
Like, okay, sorry, I'm so wrong.
You, no, that's not what it is.
No.
So it's like a regular saw. And you know how the saw is normally real big and then gets smaller? Well, it's just small. It's just a straight, small razor. It's long, but it's thin rather than like a fat saw. So it's a handheld saw. It's just thin rather than a fat saw. So I've got a picture of that. They have it. They photographed it when one of them holding it naturally because gloves weren't a thing. So they found that, and again, that's what they think the killer used to dismember the bodies. Then their organs, because in the fridge was just like meat, essentially, and some joints, I think. I don't know. But they found their organs in a nearby sewer. Their organs were literally cut up and flushed down the fucking toilet like a damn goldfish.
Oh, yeah, I've heard, I know another case, which I won't mention because I'll definitely be covering it, where a person had dismembered a person that they had killed and flushed a good portion of their organs down the toilet. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a thing.
I guess it would work because organs are squishier, and if you cut them up in enough pieces, then I guess they'd flush nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross, for sure. Blah.
So another kind of like is it was determined that they had been dead for 3 days, which meant they were killed on Father's Day. So that was kind of a little downer there.
Oh, I hate that.
Not that this entire case is not a downer, but like that's just
but it's just adds another little another brick to it.
Yeah. So where the hell was Charles? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So they issued an international warrant for him.
Oh, wow.
But they literally never found the guy. He was never found. He was last seen by his parents at some point and never seen again. So without an indictment or any any charges filed, the case remains unsolved in heavy quotations. So here's where it gets a little out there. So they suspect that he may have fled to Guatemala after the murders. So there's a book out there published in 1992 that some of you may have heard of, or at least you'll be able to figure out what it's about once I tell you the name. It's called The Man on the Grassy Knoll. And if you don't know by the title, it's written by John R. Craig and Philip A. Rogers. It's about none other than the JFK assassination.
I was actually gonna ask you before we started. I'm like, does this have anything to do with JFK because it's the 60s? And then you started talking, and I was like, how the hell would this even factor into JFK's assassination? And now I'm curious.
It's nuts.
Okay.
So these two men, it's known that at some point in the 50s, he met and was in contact with David Ferry, who was an alleged conspirator in the assassination. So in this book that they wrote, they claim that Charles was actually a CIA agent, like even into the 1980s.
Interesting.
So, yes. So they say that he was one of the men involved in the assassination and even impersonated Lee Harvey Oswald. I almost said Oswald or something. Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico City. So they accused Charles of actually being one of the sharpshooters that killed JFK. So they claim that he's actually one of the 3 tramps that were photographed being escorted by the police shortly after the assassination. I didn't know what the hell the 3 tramps were. I've never looked far into JFK's assassination.
It's nuts, dude.
It is, because I started to go down the rabbit hole and was like, oh no, I'm not doing this. This is Peyton's case.
Yeah.
So now, as soon as I read the book, when I started getting into this, they said it's the book, The Man on the Grassy Knoll. I'm like, holy shit, he was involved with JFK. This is nuts. Because I know that because of, I think it was, I don't know if it was an Ace Ventura movie or something, where he's like, he was one of the men on the grassy knoll. And I remember being like, what is the grassy knoll, when we were little? And our mom was like, it's part of the JFK assassination. So I've always known that because of that movie. A little backstory there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked up the 3 tramps, because I didn't know what the hell that was.
Yeah.
So they were, the 3 guys that everybody suspects was they possibly say CIA agents or, something. There was a big yawn.
Big yawn.
Goodness. They were being escorted by police just, a couple days after the assassination.
Yeah.
So it's all a big mystery about the identification of these 3 men.
Yeah.
And people obviously have speculated, well, these 2 men suspect that Charles was one of the men. So they think the other 2 that were with Charles in there was Charles Harrelson, Woody Harrelson's father, who was a hitman, who I had no idea. I started looking into that too. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
Uh-huh.
So the other guy that they think it was Chauncey Holt. Don't know about that guy. Didn't look into him. I just was like, Charles Harrelson, like Woody Harrelson. And I was watching a movie that had Woody Harrelson
with Woody Harrelson.
Yes. By total, like, coincidence. So
fate.
I was like, what? That's why I was like, okay, I've got to do this. So I decided, again, not to go further into it. So, but if all of that was true, so if he truly was part of the assassination, why did he murder his parents? Like, why do this? So they think that his mom was listening in and tracking his phone calls that he made to the CIA, on their landline. So he thought that they knew too much and needed to be killed and chopped up into pieces,
but in the way
that the toilet.
Yeah, but
then decapitated and then shoved in the fridge.
Yeah, like that part makes no sense. Like, oh, okay,
right. So it's a tad bit overkill.
Yeah,
for good measure. So they were the ones that think he fled to Guatemala and then died of old age. So they don't think that, like, they think he just like lived in Guatemala after he fled.
Does Guatemala have any extradition treaties with the US?
Don't know. Didn't look at it.
Piece of shit.
I don't know. I don't know if it does now. I don't know if it did then. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is 1965, so I have no idea.
It might not have.
Right. So this book was criticized and thought of as mostly fiction. But it's really cool to tie all this together.
Yeah.
So in 2003, there was another book published that was called The Icebox Murders. So they were pretty much officially the ones to dub it The Icebox Murders.
Yeah.
So this was written by Hugh and Martha Gardner, one of the two. They started researching the case in 1997, and they don't believe John Craig and Philip Rogers' claim that the connection to the Kennedy assassination and that he was in the CIA. They do believe that he had contact with the CIA at some point in his shell while he was working at Shell for, some reasons, because he was really good at finding oil for the company, associates had said. Like really, really good at it. So they do think that they had contact with the CIA, but they don't think he was actually an agent. So they also agree that it was Charles that killed his parents. So like everybody's in agreement that it was Charles that killed his parents, but they think he did it for different reasons. So they think that Charles had been planning these murders for years in advance because he was actually abused as a child and the abuse continued into adulthood.
Well, see, that's where I could possibly agree with. Like that idea I could agree with just because of the brutality of the murders. Because it screams like it's like personal. It's especially the father's genitals being cut off and eyes being gouged out.
Right.
That makes me like, I no longer want to look at the eyes that abused me.
Right.
And I'm going to cut off the part that he abused me with. And mom's got to go too because she let it happen. Like that's what I'm imagining in my head.
Right. And that's why she was execution style, because while she may not have been the one to do it, she let it happen so that you have to be executed.
Yeah, she still bore witness, so you got to go too.
So they went even further to say that Fred and Edwina were con artists and that Fred was a bookie and was very into gambling, which was illegal at the time.
Right.
They even accused a couple of stealing money from Charles, like taking out loans in his name, taking the money. And I even think I read one account that said the house was actually in Charles's name. It wasn't his parents.
Interesting.
I don't know how true that is. That was just one of the things that I'd seen. But they were forging a signature on things and just, stealing his money, essentially, is what these people say was happening. So obviously this could be why it was so brutal and personal.
Yeah.
But the one thing they did agree on was that he did flee to Mexico. So they agree he fled to Mexico too. But they said that he had help with some very powerful friends that he made through his ham radio hobby. So bringing that back in there. So they think that he made his way to Honduras, where he was killed over some kind of money dispute, like some kind of wage.
Why do you think he was possibly killed?
Well, they say wage just in like 3 different sources. I saw it said wage disputes with minors. I don't know, obviously, but anyway, they say that he was killed. Don't know how they got that. I didn't read the book.
Interesting.
But that's what they say.
Well, he might have been in contact with like the cartels or something, and then maybe did a little something to step on their toes, and they were like, absolutely not. So,
regardless, this book is also seen as a work of fiction to most critics, and it's not taken as fact. So both books that were about this, everybody's like, nah, I don't see it. No, this is, you took some, liberty in this.
Maybe, but regardless, the crime itself is very real.
It is very real.
Because I mean, like, it's the 60s. There's no such thing as DNA yet. There's a million different forensic things that they do not have at their disposal. And where was
Mm-hmm.
this?
This was in Houston, Texas.
Oh, well, I mean, kind of a bigger city. Okay. But
Yeah.
still, though. So, I mean, with what they had, they literally had the one lead thinking, this was probably Charles. But where do you go to from there? Unless you catch wind of him somewhere, you have nothing to work with.
Yeah. Literally nothing to work with.
Exactly. So why not go a little crazy speculative and
Hell yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, to wrap him in the JFK assassination.
I know, that's crazy.
It's I was like, ah, what? Ah, what?
I know. Well, the thing is about the JFK assassination, once you start to dive into one rabbit hole, then that sections off into 4 other rabbit holes. And then those 4
Yeah.
rabbit holes section off into 6 rabbit holes each.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
a million things. And even some of the more like outlandish theories that probably aren't true still are fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
It's like every little thing. Like, it's
Well,
crazy.
that's why when one of the sources had said that they thought it was him and then Charles Harrelson, and it said, Woody Harrelson, the actor's dad. I'm like, what? No way. And then I looked into it. I'm like, holy shit, he was a hitman, and his wife. So this ties it in even more for me because his wife's maiden name was Oswald.
Oh my god. That's fucking crazy.
Now you understand why I'm just
Wow.
like, I got my tinfoil hat on and I'm like, this is fascinating,
Oh
But
yeah.
and because I mean, he was a known hitman. Like, he killed a judge for somebody for something. I didn't look further into it because again, I was like, oh, what a sleepy pig.
Sleepy little pig
So sleepy.
with all the
But I
rolls.
didn't go further into that because I'm like, I could lose myself in
Oh
this.
yeah, for
So
sure.
I just thought that was fascinating. So to tie all this up, regardless of the 2 books, in 1975, a Houston judge declared Charles legally dead in absentia, which that means without him present,
Yeah.
so that his possessions and estate could go into probate and then sold. The house where this all took place stayed empty and then was eventually tore down in
Oh
1972.
damn.
I know. The lot stayed empty until 2000, where condos ended up being built.
Damn it.
And that is the Icebox Murders. Icebox Murders that is quote unquote unsolved.
That's crazy.
I told you this was nuts.
The wand chose the wizard this week.
I'm telling you.
That's nuts.
Fascinating.
I love the JFK thing, which may not be
Connection.
true, but at the same time,
No.
that's really awesome.
Well, because I even looked up the 3 tramps. I looked up the 3 tramps, the pictures that they have of them, and I'm like pulling that up at one end, and then I'm pulling up the picture of Charles on the other side, and I'm like looking at him like, oh, does that look like Charles? I don't know, because I only have a picture of Charles when he was in the Navy. I don't have any other pictures of Charles because by the time he was in his 30s and 40s, he was a recluse, and I'm assuming didn't get any other pictures taken of himself.
Probably not.
So,
well, because that also like gets my mind going. Because if they technically didn't visually see their son for 8 years, if he had the plan to kill them, who knows what he did to his appearance to change what he looked like in order to get out of the country quicker and easier.
That is true. And again, if he hadn't had a photograph taken of him let's see, he worked at Shell for 9 years and then was at his parents for another 7 or 8 years before he fled.
Mm-hmm.
A lot changes in that many years. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy nuts.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So see, it's a short one. My first and probably only one that's short, because my next one is not a short one.
Your Paige's next one is probably going to be a two-parter.
It's definitely going to be a two-parter. I've got both parts like ready and done. I didn't want it to be two-parters in a row, so that's why I found this one. I can't help myself. I'm
Good
sorry.
God. Okay.
It's fine.
I guess. So, thank you for joining us this week.
And I'm sorry I pick all the unsolved ones.
I know. I think this is like our thing where I bring a solved one and then you, the asshole that you are, comes in with an unsolved case. And it's every week. Have you brought a solved case this week? Or not this week. Have you brought
whole time?
Yes.
Yes. Bill Suff. That's been my only one.
That's it though.
That's it. We're on episode what? What is this? 16?
No, this one will be number 18.
Oh. Yeah, I've only had one solved one.
Oh my God.
But technically, some of my other unsolved ones, like the Sequinics, we're pretty sure Anton Novak was the one that killed him.
But this is what you do.
Oh, what is Sleepy Boy?
I know. This is what you do. You bring me a kind of unsolved, kind of solved. Like
Lizzie Borden. We're all pretty sure Lizzie did it. This one, we're all pretty sure that Charles was the one that did it. He just was never caught.
Like Xavier, we're pretty sure it was Xavier.
We're pretty sure that it was Xavier, but he's just never been found. I can't help it.
I like the mystery.
It's fascinating, and
of course it is.
Because then you can, like my next one, it's still actively being investigated. So I'm hoping to bring more light to the situation.
So maybe we'll have an update on your next one eventually.
Fingers crossed. I really hope so, because my next one's awful.
Yeah, that's why
this one was horrifying, but the next one's it's just awful.
Yeah, because after we did Peter Sutcliffe, what did we do before that? Oh, Lisa Montgomery and Bobby Joe Stinnett. So
yeah,
the couple longer ones that we're doing.
Solved. That one was solved.
Stop. Don't patronize me. So we wanted to kind of do something a little less intense, because obviously Peter Sutcliffe's really intense. Bobby Joe's case was really intense, and Paige's next one is going to rip out all of the hearts.
It's not going to be any good.
So mine next week is going to be real historic, and it's going to be it's a murder, but it's a little bit less intense, and it's a little bit more, it's a bit more fun until the murder's not so fun, but then afterward, obviously the murder is not fun, but then afterward there's a little bit of weird quirkiness as well. So
that's why I found this one. While the murder is horrifying, you get to tie this horrifying, you get to tie this fun little conspiracy
to where did he fucking go?
Where did he come from? Where did he go? Okay. I can't help myself.
My goodness. Okay. Well, you can follow us on Facebook at
2K Away.
You can follow us on Instagram at 2K Away Podcast. And we do have a YouTube channel. It is 2K Away Podcast. And we also do have a Gmail. It is at 2kawaypodcast@gmail.com. And every time you type the word 2, it is the number 2. And thank you for joining us. What?
If you'd like to help us a little bit, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to know what you think about us.
Yes, absolutely. Because again, like I said, we will be launching the Patreon sometime.
Someday.
So if you want to support us just like a little bit, just to kind of help us out, yeah, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. But if you have nothing, if you have nothing not nice to say, then don't leave us a review.
If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
So yeah, and because we're still really small. I mean, we've definitely picked up a lot more the last few episodes.
Thank you guys
definitely,
so much, because it's kicked off and we're almost to 2,000 downloads, and we are so excited, and we cannot thank you enough. We love you all.
Oh yeah,
from
for sure.
all of the countries, all of the 21
all
countries.
the countries, yes.
It's crazy.
Yes. But that's just a little way to support us, especially like getting our name out there, and that helps people find us on the apps and everything. So we would greatly appreciate it. So we will see you all next week for my episode. My as in Peyton.
Bye.
Bye.